It's now 10:05, so morning everybody, and thanks for joining us on time. My name is Paul Aldis. I'm a training development manager from STAR's capability team. So I'm just hosting the session and introducing actually James Tumber from Remit. So the session today, supporting you with recruitment and training, is all about trying to help you do exactly that really, which we put the session together on the back of the challenges facing the hospitality sector broadly in terms of recruitment and indeed retention, and particularly coming out of lockdown, where there's a lot of uncertainty around job security for people coming in the industry or actually in the industry itself. So what we're looking to do today is give you some support, some ideas in terms of what we can do to help you retain staff, but actually bring people into the industry and show them that actually there's a meaningful career for them to have going forward. Okay, so a bit of housekeeping before we start. Everyone's got the cameras off, and most people are on mute. So if you're not on mute, if you just look to the bottom left of your screen, you'll see a small icon which says stop video and mute, and just click on those and I'll help the session run a bit smoother. Any questions you can place in the chat. So at the bottom of your screen there's a chat function, which again, if you click on that, you can send a question which it can be directed to the whole group and which James or I can pick up, or actually you can send it individually to James if that's what you want to do. That's absolutely fine, or myself. Okay, so without further ado, I'll introduce you to James Tumber from Remit, and James can introduce himself and we can get the session going.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Paul. So what I'll do first actually is just get my screen shared for you all first of all, before anything else. So yeah, as Paul said, my name's James Tumber. I'm one of the account managers here at Remit. I haven't come alone today. I've actually got a couple of my colleagues with me on the call. Carol, who is in charge of recruitment, the team leader, who I'll be asking to speak a little bit about that in more detail as we go through today. I've also got one of my colleagues, senior account manager Claire, who is a specialist in the hospitality sector. So she's kindly joined in as well in case you have any specific questions about those side of things. I don't foresee this taking the whole time that we've got booked in for today, so hopefully we can go through a few questions on the call with you all. As Paul said, obviously any questions in the chat we'll be able to pick up. I can assure you that any questions we can't go and answer today, I'll make sure to get back to you ourselves via email or through a phone call afterwards. So let's get started and jump straight into it. So the very first thing to talk about is who we are, Remit. Some of you might know us, but for those who don't, we are a national training provider that delivers our bespoke apprenticeship and pre-employment training programs across the hospitality sector, also in food, manufacturing, business services, IT, retail, automotive, and healthcare. You'll be pleased to see we are a Ofsted Grade 2, which took place in February 2018. The quality of teaching, learning assessment, and the outcome for learners being two things in particular we are very pleased about, but especially the fact we got a Grade 1 in the effectiveness of leadership and management as well. So our vision is to be the learning and training focused provider of choice, and hopefully we'll be the training provider of choice for you as well. We're very passionate about what we do. We believe strongly in what apprenticeships can do and what they can offer for employers. The programs we offer, they're not just one shop fits all. We do tailor them to the industry. A lot of the programs we do in the hospitality sector have actually been worked and created through the clients that we work with. So we do take on board what you as the employers want to have as part of the training, because at the end of the day, you are the industry experts. So we don't just do it all from our end and tell you this is what it has to be. We listen to you and we take on board to make the qualification as beneficial for you as the employer and the learner as can be. So what is an apprenticeship? Apprenticeship is a real job with hands-on experience, with a salary and a chance to train whilst you earn. Now, the majority of the hospitality programs last anywhere between 12 to 18 months, and it gives you an opportunity to have a period of training whilst employed allows you to learn a particular set of skills. One thing to be aware of is that you are required to complete functional skills unless you've already got the equivalent in place, whether that be GCSEs or literally functional skills. With that, it's part of the government funding, so that's something to be aware of. As we already mentioned, it is very much focused on the industry knowledge, skills and behaviours. I know one of the biggest challenges that I think all sectors are facing, let alone you guys, is finding the right level of skill and experience with candidates. So apprenticeships gives you the option to really train them up to the way that you want them to be and where they need to be to allow you to move forward. One of the big things with apprenticeships, one of the bugbears or things that sort of put people off sometimes potentially, is the 20% off the job training. One of the main reasons being it's not the most well-explained thing in the world. When Ofsted brought it out, I think 2 to 3 years ago. So 20% is in relation to 20% of your working hours a week. But please don't think that means they get a day off a week to go home and do coursework, because that's just not how the real world works. It's a case of making sure that the apprentice has time to either develop their skills or move forward with their qualification throughout the time on their course, and putting time aside to allow you to do that. Now, at Remit, we do have something called a learner journey, which I won't go into too much more detail today, but you have a much more better idea of as we move forward, which goes through everything that you as the employer, the learner, and the DC, which is the development coach, the tutor assessor, if you will be going through with the learner throughout their time on the program. It's split into monthly segments, and it gives you a clear indication of what activities they'll be doing with the development coach, what self-study the learner needs to do, and also the activities in-house or on the job that they'll be completing alongside that. If the learner does all of those things on the learner journey, you'll be naturally completing 20% off the job training straight away. So rather than having to think about how on earth you're going to make sure this is covered and you tick that box, so to speak, we've already got something in place to make sure that it's as easy as it can be for you guys as well. Now, as part of the apprenticeship as well, there is something called an endpoint assessment. It's not new, it's been around for a good 2-3 years now, but in the grand scheme of things, it is fairly new. So once you go through the learner journey and you complete all the coursework and assessments alongside that, you then enter what's called an endpoint assessment, the last month or two of the qualification. It will vary what you'll be doing based on if you're more front of house or back of house type qualification, but it's all done externally, and we'll help you prepare for it beforehand. But that will likely entail an on-demand test, a practical observation, a professional discussion, and then either a culinary challenge if you're back of house in the kitchen, etc., or a business project if you're front of house as a supervisor, team member, or a manager. So moving on to recruiting apprentice. I imagine this is one of the biggest reasons why you are here today. Now we have a really strong and really successful recruitment service in place here at Remit. One of the main things I do want to stress, and is a great, I think, selling point for all of you, is that we don't charge you anything. Other recruitment companies do. That's not how we work. All we ask in return is that you then put that learner onto apprenticeship with us, and we can help them grow from there. Now, as I mentioned at the start, my colleague Carol is on the call today, so I don't know if she's with us now to join and just give us a quick sort of 30 seconds to a minute about how the process works, because she's the one who oversees all of that.
Good morning. Right, so we have 2 different processes. It depends very much on whether you're looking for us to recruit a new member of team, or whether you're looking to upskill an existing member of the team. So if you're looking for us to recruit, then as James said, we would do that free of charge. We will need some information from you, and some of that will be a full job description and obviously information about the qualification you want them to do. There are quite a lot of hospitality quals at level 2 and level 3, so it's really important that we get the right qualification for the right role, because the apprentice is going to need to be able to demonstrate their knowledge and skills endpoint assessment. So if their job role is not going to allow them to do that, then it's going to be the wrong qualification. So what we would do, obviously, once we've got all the information from you, we would then get the vacancy advertised, and we used a number of different job boards for that, along with the National Apprenticeship Service, which is a mandatory requirement for all apprenticeship vacancies. We would then screen candidates for you, making sure that they're eligible for the apprenticeship and also that they meet your requirements. So if you're looking for somebody, for instance, that's done, can drive, for example, then we would screen those initially before you get CVs. Again, sort of thinking about shift patterns and working hours. I know sort of for the trade, sometimes people are working late. So just checking out with them that they're happy to work till late, that they understand that, if they're working in the kitchen might supposed to be finished at at 9 o'clock, but actually they might still be there at 10. They're going to need to be flexible. So going through all of those things with them so that they really understand the role that they've applied for. They understand something about the qualification that they've applied for. And then the final thing that we do is get them to do some English and maths assessments. So they're part of the eligibility checks. And when you do an apprenticeship, you have to make sure that candidates are at a minimum level of competence on functional skills. So that's why we do the assessment. So if we've got somebody, for instance, who didn't do particularly well at school, perhaps they got really low grades, they might have done some work in between times, so they might have sort of upped their skills and abilities since they left school. As long as they can achieve the grades that we need them to do on the assessments, we would then put them forward to you. So we would then send you CVs for you to have a look at, so you can complete control about who you interview, and then we arrange the interviews for you. So you just need to tell us, yeah, can I please see Sid on next Thursday? And we'll phone Sid and get him booked in for next Thursday. And then your responsibility is to give us feedback on how the interview went within 48 hours, and again on when we send CVs over as well, because one of the things we are finding is that candidates are disappearing very quickly if they don't get feedback. I'm sure you're all aware of how difficult the market is at the moment in terms of recruitment and getting staff anyway. So yeah, okay, shall I leave it there, James, or do you want to take some questions?
Brilliant. I'll hold off questions for now. That's okay. You're able to stay with us to the end. If anyone has got any questions in the chat, I'm sure you could, I guess, reply to one there whilst I'm talking. But if not, we'll carry on and go from there. But thank you very much for that. A couple of other things just to mention is the cost of the apprenticeships. As you can see here, the apprenticeships are funded 95% unless the apprentice or the learner, is age 16 to 18. That means it's fully funded. I have got a slide to go in a bit more detail about the cost involved with the apprenticeship, so I'll touch upon that in more detail then. And another thing I'm going to go into more detail about shortly is also the apprenticeship employer incentive, which is still available until May 2022. So a couple of things I wanted to sort of just clarify with you there. And one other thing which I think is always nice to mention is that we have actually placed a candidate with one of you guys, Ilky Moore Volts, just last month. So it's great to see that results are coming in from the vacancy that we're working on, which actually Kaz worked on herself. So the big question is why recruit or train up an apprentice in the first place? And there's so many good and positive things for that. It encourages employee retention. You know, when you give staff measurable goals, you give them an opportunity, which an apprenticeship does, to learn and be more motivated and engaged in the industry. It's only going to encourage one thing, which is going to get them to stay. I imagine turnover in any industry is very difficult because you always have to start again. You want to have a solid, sort of stable workforce, and this is a great way to do that. Apprenticeships, I know one of the big misconceptions about them is the whole age thing. A lot of people sort of see it as something you do if you don't quite get into college or university out of school, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And that's one of the big things I really do want to stress today. I know it's still got this perhaps stigma attached to it, but apprenticeships are very much a huge opportunity for people, and cost effective as well. Like I said, 95% of the apprenticeship is fully funded by the government. It's just the 5% that you would need to pay for. An example from an age point of view I want to give you, albeit from a different industry, was I actually enrolled a 62-year-old onto a childcare qualification level 2 2 years ago. She had a change in direction, change in career. And she completed that and actually progressed on to level 3 afterwards. So it's never too late. I think one of the big things that I think an opportunity that you guys have is to really help grow not just your pubs and your employers, is the hospitality sector in general. As I mentioned earlier on, I'm sure there's a lot of difficulty finding the skilled workers you want and need when recruiting. So why not look to build them up yourselves, mold them into the way that you want your business to operate. And this is a great way of doing just that. A stat, you can see some of them here. One of them I do want to mention is from the National Apprenticeship Service directly, is that 92% of companies that have taken on apprentices believe that this leads to more motivated and satisfied workforce, with 80% seeing a significant increase in employer retention. It also improves employee engagement. It's much more efficient and engaging to learn how to prepare a dish or how to provide excellent customer service from an expert in the room, in the business with you, than reading it from a book. And that's one of the big things that you'll find, that having that on-the-job learning is going to be much bigger and better than just simply being thrown information at you and regurgitating it from there. And like I said as well, it creates new opportunities to grow the industry. 86% of employers said apprenticeships help them develop skills relevant to their organisation, and it's only going to give them a platform to progress from there. The qualifications that we do, again, I'll touch on them a bit more in a minute, do allow natural progression from level 2, 3, 4 and 5, but it can also open up more doors within your own business as well. So lots of really good reasons why this could be a benefit to you. It's very easy for me to say all the wonderful and great things that apprenticeships can do. At the end of the day, it's my job to say such things. So what I wanted to do was actually talk about a couple of big hospitality clients that have seen massive success from apprenticeships. A quote I've taken from Starbucks here is that apprenticeships have been one of the biggest success stories across the UK, with so many staff being retained, reallocated to other areas of the business, or promoted once they achieve. So not only are they moving and successful in the role they're initially starting, they're being promoted or moved into different parts of the business as well, which I think is really exciting. 80% of partners who've completed the apprenticeship remain within the business, and 1 in 5 have gone to successfully get an in-work promotion. And 20% of level 2 apprentices have been promoted to supervisor roles, and 23% of level 3 team leader apprentices have been promoted to store managers. So even if you have staff that are at the beginning at level 2, there is a very clear pathway that is available to them through this route. Another big hospitality client is Stonegate. Again, they have seen a lot of success from that. There's a progression route from level 2 to level 5, with 95% of apprentices progressing onto the next level. From a return on investment point of view, at the end of the day, it's all very lovely if you talk about all the great things apprentices can do, but a business needs to make money at the bottom line. And Stonegate have actually seen a direct impact in a positive way to their profits because of that. Food margin increasing to 1.8%, which is equated to them being £1.4 million in profit, which is huge. And most importantly, as I mentioned to you earlier on, they've seen a massive amount of retention of back of house colleagues. It has provided the general managers with an invaluable, stable kitchen team. Now, my colleague Claire, who's on the call today, is actually the account manager for both of these clients. So if you want to pop any questions in the chat about these two in particular, Claire, you're more than happy to answer them for you, because she'll be the best person to do just that. So the next thing I want to do, again, on the theme of talking about apprenticeships and why they're great, and I think it's so important that I have other ways of talking to you about it, not just from my point of view, but from others, is a video here we have from you guys, startups, about how successful apprenticeships have been for them. If you can't hear it at all, I think I've got the sound on, please just let me know.
We're very lucky because it's in such a lovely location. It's in a beautiful village. We get a lot of visitors here from all over the world. Jess was already working for us. We instantly could recognise the excellent work ethic that she had, and when she told us that she was looking for an apprenticeship, we offered her one immediately, and we thought it would be great to have another really good member of staff working front of house for us.
Within Star Pubs and Bars, we're giving the operators an opportunity to build their talent and keep hold of staff, because it's such a difficult marketplace to be in, and it's getting the right people that stay, the future operators.
I think there's a lot to be gained from having an apprentice. As we all know in this industry, it is quite difficult to attract and retain staff, and I think providing the opportunity to develop their skills and take on an apprenticeship and leave with a qualification is a good thing. It benefits not only the apprentice, but it also benefits you as a business as well, because they are committed to you and they are working very, very hard and bringing lots of new knowledge and skills to you as well.
I think some of the main things I've learned is customers and really knowing your business well. So I got to learn a lot about the business, stuff that I wouldn't have normally got to know without this apprenticeship. And that's also helped with my confidence a lot. And then also I've been able to train up skills I already knew to a lot higher level.
Having seen the benefit of having an apprentice work in front of house, we've actually just taken on another apprentice, this time in the kitchen. You know, it's quite difficult to attract chefs into this industry. We were looking for extra staff and we thought, yeah, let's have another apprentice. We just want to grow and grow and grow like we have been.
It's given me a lot of skills that I can use for many different jobs if I wanted to change career. It's opened a lot of doors for me, I think.
Within Star Pubs and Bars, it's really about creating the hospitality managers of the future, really investing in their time and growing the business together.
So moving on to what I mentioned earlier on is the costs and the programs that we offer here at Remit. Now, going back to my, I have a lot of points and a lot of things to mention, but it's actually what the level 2, level 3, level 4 and 5 actually means. It's all very easy me saying a number, but to give you an idea of what it actually equates to, a level 2 is the equivalent of 5 GCSEs, a level 3 is the equivalent of 2 A levels, level 4 and 5 actually equates to a foundation degree. That gives you an idea of actually how high level these qualifications actually are. On the right hand side, you'll see that the 5% employer contribution that you would be required as the employer to pay for any apprentice you took on with us. You wouldn't have to pay that up front. I do want to stress that. There's payment plan options in place to spread that cost over 6 months to help you out with that as well. So please don't get too put off from that. But the programs we offer, as you can see here, from a level 2 point of view, we have the hospitality team member, so that be bar staff, waiter, anything front of house would be the ideal qualification for them. And then that can lead on quite naturally to hospitality supervisor, hospitality manager, and even departmental operations manager in the future from there. From back of house point of view, we've also got the production chef, which I imagine would be a lot more relatable to the majority of you guys, but also the commis chef as well, depending on sort of what your menu is and the sort of meals you're going to be cooking. And again, some natural progression opportunities in terms of the senior production chef and the chef de partie as well. Now, going back to how Remit actually deliver the apprenticeship. So I touched upon briefly with the actual sort of learner journey, but what I do want to sort of talk about briefly, just to give an insight into it, is actually how we go about doing the actual training itself. It isn't just a case of having lessons. There's lots of things. There's webinars, a bit like this today, which the learners can attend. There's online learning, so there's a platform we call which is Fuse, which allows the learner to access different activities and modules in their own time. You'll have a dedicated mentor. There'll be workshops that they can attend as well. There'll be lots of videos and also one-to-one as well. You have a dedicated development coach, as I said, the tutor assessor, who'll be working with them and visiting on a monthly basis, whether that be remotely or in person. Obviously, restrictions, etc., that are in place at the moment, and assignments that they'll be asked to complete as well. So the learner journey would be the best way to look to sort of get an idea exactly of how that's going to work. But I wanted to sort of give you an insight into exactly what is going to be entailed. It's not a simple case of just being sat at a lesson, having the information thrown at them, and they have to write it all down and then regurgitate it. There's lots of different ways of tailoring the experience to them, because everyone learns in different ways. Now, one thing I'm really keen to talk about and for you guys to be aware of is the apprenticeship employer incentive. Of course, this wouldn't be the first reason why you look to use this service, but I think it's a great opportunity for you as an employer to take advantage of this. So the government actually brought this in August 2020, and the Chancellor has just continued to sort of extend it, I guess the best way of describing it. So that's why the dates do seem a bit jumbled at times, because it has a set date for the first cohort, I guess you want to call it, and it seems to have moved on to further on from there. So what that means for you is that basically any employer that you, anyone that you hire between now and the 31st of January is potentially able to do to be qualified for this incentive scheme. It doesn't mean you have to begin the apprenticeship by the 31st of January. Well, the most important thing is that the contract of employment is from the latest date, the 31st of January. The applications are open until 15th of May, which means you have until the 14th of May 2022 to then put that employee on an apprenticeship. Not that we want them to have that much of a gap in between, but of course it's important and it's right for you that they settle and you don't want people sort of jumping ship too early doors. So how does it work for you? In a nutshell, you'll be given a payment of £3,000. It'll come in 2 installments, the first one being after 90 days of their apprenticeship beginning, and you'll receive the second amount after 365 days as well. What you'll need to do is get yourself set up on the digital apprenticeship service, which is something we'll support you with. Once you're set up from there, we can get a cohort put in place for the learner, which we'll support you with. And this all needs to be done pre-enrollment. So we'll make sure we get that all set up for you beforehand. There's a few details involved you need to do. But I think it's really good for you guys to know that there is going to be that a lot of money involved potentially for you to sort of incentivize you further for that. How you spend that money is completely up to you. It can go, as long as it goes towards in some shape or form the business that you're working, then pretty much anything can go, whether that's wages, whether that's investing in training or different resources within the business. They're quite flexible in terms of what you see best to use that money on. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this today, so please don't worry. But there is a lot of things to do with the eligibility side of things to be aware of, simply because of the fact that the apprenticeship is government funded. And the main thing I'm going to mention for now is the required minimum hours per week. So if we do recruit a member of staff for you, or you simply have a new member of staff that joins you and we want to put them on an apprenticeship, we do need them to be working a minimum of 30 hours a week. If you do have an existing team member that wishes to begin an apprenticeship with us, then the minimum amount would need to be at least 16 hours. However, we would prefer this to be at 30 hours as well, because otherwise it does affect the funding and the length of the course if not. What it basically means is that it will take a lot longer for them to complete the qualification because of the amount of hours they need to complete on the job throughout their apprenticeship. That's it. Obviously, as I mentioned before, one of the big things you want to be aware of when we hopefully get to a stage where we can begin one of your candidates on an apprenticeship with us is to make sure you've got the apprenticeship service set up, because we can't actually get them started without that. And of course, there's the £3,000 incentive that we want to make sure that you receive as well. As I said, I had a chance to look at the chat. If you've got any questions in there, I will make sure that I get back to you on those either today or now if you've got some time to do so. But yeah, just really to say thank you very much. And yeah, any questions?
Thanks for that, James and Carol. A really positive session there, particularly like the staff from Stonegate about the reduction in staff turnover of 32%. And the fact that it provides a clear pathway for both new and existing staff. You know, you can really demonstrate that, you know, there is a valuable career in hospitality, which is brilliant. So yeah, great stuff.